President Dmitry Medvedev has wrapped up the results of 2009 in a live, nationally televised broadcast with the heads of Russian television stations. The president said that through the country's modernization should already have begun long ago. Russia is making progress. RT's Gani Jijikian has more.
The heads of the country's main networks and their viewers have heard the president's calls for modernization before. Modernizing the economy is a key point of Medvedev's domestic policy. But are Russians and their state management system really ready for this? Journalists asked.
We can be sure that without modernization, the Russian economy has no future. It may be based on vast natural resources, but we cannot rely only on them. The Russian nation is strong, well-prepared and smart. It is able to change not by force, but because this is an internal goal.
When I was listening to your Federal Assembly address in the Kremlin, I noticed that some people seemed pretty indifferent. Some were playing games on their mobiles, and some just looked like they'd had a heavy night. There always seems to be an army of bureaucrats between your decisions and life. What can you do to make sure your decisions are actually implemented?
Vladimir Mikhailovich, please give me the list of those who weren't listening.
Gosh, that'll make me popular with the civil servants.
Reform is the order of the day in Russia's law enforcement. Straight after the interview, the president signed a decree to improve the work of the police. This will see the force cut by 20%. Trust in law enforcement took a big hit this year after several incidents involving police officers. Probably the most notorious one involved the head of a Moscow police department who shot 2 people dead and wounded 7 in a supermarket.
If the public changes its attitude towards law enforcement, I think it will be easier for our uniformed men to work in a better environment.
Asked about the more radical members of the opposition and why they don't take part in decision-making, Medvedev said this is their own choice.
It is non-systematic because it does not see itself inside the political system. They have chosen this place themselves, and I respect their decision. If we're not seeing any violations of Russian law, it is all right. If we're seeing the so-called non-system opposition acting within the boundaries of the law, let them work as they want to. Maybe they do reflect someone's preferences, but sometimes I fail to see whose preferences they can reflect. But this is a matter of choice, and I would not like to offend anyone. The masterminds of this opposition are very well-known people. One of them is a former prime minister. The other is a very well-known chess player.
Most of the time, the journalists focused on domestic affairs, but one of the first international questions concerned the new Russia-US arms reduction treaty. This is expected to provide unprecedented cuts in the nuclear arsenals of both countries.
We have to create a high-quality document. I believe we will create it. This is not a simple contract between 2 small companies that can be drawn up in 15 minutes. In some areas, we're pushing on our partners and telling them something is unacceptable for us. In other areas, they're trying to do something. This is a normal negotiations process.
The fact that Russia's relations with the U.S. remain a focus point for the media is no surprise to experts.
We are living still on a powder keg compiled with nuclear weapons, excessive weapons.
The arms reduction treaty is expected early next year.
Very few questions were asked about foreign policy. The main focus was on domestic affairs, and here keywords were reforms and modernization.